Greetings and peace. I would like to start this with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace be with you and yours. Today's presentation, I would like to talk about the significance of the number 33. First, I will address it from the Islamic perspective, then the Masonic perspective, and where they converge as well. And also, once this is done, I will also cover the true Knights Templars and the significance of the 33rd degree as well, right here in this same video. And it will be back-to-back double presentations in one video. So stay tuned, enjoy, and this is for entertainment, education, and free speech purposes only. A disclaimer: this presentation is created solely for entertainment, free speech, and educational purposes. It does not encourage anyone to join any Masonic lodges or organizations, as the modern-day lodge and Grand Lodge systems are often associated with politics, racism, and ego-driven dynamics. The intention here is purely to explore symbolic teachings and philosophical parallels of the number 33, and to understand how such symbolism can be applied towards self-reflection and personal growth. Now, the viewers are also encouraged to check out my channel, Salman as Sheikh, on YouTube, and specifically my playlist on Islam, Sufism, and Freemasonry, which expands on many of these ideas with depth and nuance. Please remember that what follows is an exploration of symbolism and historical teachings, and not a directive or call to join any lodge or Grand Lodge system. So just take the teachings and apply it to your life. That's all that matters. From an intro perspective, we see that numbers have always carried deep symbolic weight in spiritual traditions. From the ancient mystery schools to the Abrahamic religions, they serve as keys to understanding hidden truths about creation, divine order, and the path of the soul. The number 33 in particular stands out across various systems of thought for its unique resonance with the themes of perfection, completion, and enlightenment. In this presentation, we will explore the role of the number 33 in Islam, Sufism, and Freemasonry, considering how it emerges in religious practice, mystical interpretation, and symbolic architecture. We will also examine points of convergence between these paths, asking whether 33 represents a universal language of the spirit. Within Islam, numbers often carry subtle symbolic meaning connected to divine worship and remembrance. The number 33 appears in a particularly central role in devotional practice, prayer recitations, and the eschatological beliefs. It is not a random figure, but one embedded in spiritual rhythm, guiding the believer toward balance and devotion, whether in the cycle of tasbih after salah or in descriptions of the perfected state of believers in paradise. The number 33 reflects divine wisdom. It embodies wholeness, youth, and completeness, reminding Muslims that every detail in ritual carries both an outward practice and an inward meaning. After the 5 daily prayers, Muslims are traditionally encouraged to recite Subhanallah, which is glory be to God, 33 times, Alhamdulillah, praise be to God, 33 times, and Allahu Akbar, God is great, right? 33 times as well, or sometimes 34, totaling 100. The repetition of 33 in this dhikr, remembrance, is meant to anchor the believer in divine mindfulness. This structured remembrance symbolizes discipline and devotion. By reciting these phrases 33 times, the heart is aligned with divine rhythm, and the believer internalizes constant gratitude, glorification, and humility before God. Thus, the number 33 is not arbitrary, but represents spiritual balance and continuity. Beyond ritual repetition, the number 33 carries deep resonance in Islamic spirituality. It is associated with symmetry and divine proportion, symbolizing perfection in worship and devotion. As Muslims engage in structured remembrance, they align themselves with the metaphysical order that the number represents. In the eschatological traditions, the number also represents completeness in the afterlife. The Prophet Muhammad is reported to have said that the inhabitants of paradise will be in their prime at the age of 33, the fixed age of 33, where you don't get younger or older, eternally youthful and whole. This emphasizes the eternal significance of 33 beyond the daily ritual of tasbih as well. Sufism, the mystical dimension of Islam, often embraces symbolic interpretation of numbers, right? The abjad. Numbers are seen as reflection of cosmic truths and a guidepost for the journey of the soul toward divine unity. Within the symbolic framework, the number 33 emerges as a sacred marker of transformation and perfection. In Sufi traditions, the repetition of divine names, sacred phrases, and meditative practices are often tied to symbolic numbers. These repetitions are not only devotional but also metaphysical tools for polishing the heart, bringing the seeker closer to divine truth. The number 33 thus holds special resonance as a mystical signpost. Sufi orders often adopt the structured recitation of God's names in cycles of 33. This reflects the Prophet's own guidance and extends it into mystical practice. The rhythm of 33 repetitions serves not only to maintain focus, but to generate spiritual energy that elevates the soul toward higher states of consciousness. Through dhikr, the seeker is reminded that numbers can act as doorways to divine remembrance. The number 33 in this case encapsulates the balance between mind, heart, and spirit, creating a harmony that supports inner awakening and closeness to God. Some Sufi teachings interpret numbers as metaphors for stages of the spiritual path. The number 33 is sometimes associated with levels of progression, marking milestones in the seeker's journey. It suggests that just as the ritual dhikr has structured repetition, the path to God has structure and order as well. To achieve spiritual maturity, the seeker must progress through stations of discipline, love, annihilation of the ego, and union with the divine. The number 33 becomes a symbol for the completeness of this journey, representing both struggle and perfection. Beyond specific practices, Sufi mystics often interpret the number 33 as symbolic of perfection and divine union. It represents the soul that has undergone transformation, shedding its attachments and becoming fully immersed in divine love. The number thus points to wholeness, the seeker at one with God beyond the dualities of worldly existence. In this sense, 33 is not just a number but a cosmic archetype of mystical fulfillment and divine beauty. Now we address this from the Freemasonry perspective. Freemasonry, a philosophical and initiatory system rooted in enlightenment ideals, has long held sacred numbers at the heart of its symbolic framework. Numbers such as 357, right, the 379, and particularly 33, are imbued with layered meanings connected to spiritual ascent, geometry, and human transformation. The Masonic worldview interprets numbers as keys to universal wisdom. Among these, the number 33 stands as a symbol of completion, higher knowledge, and enlightenment. Its reoccurrence across degrees, architecture, and ritual points to its central role in Masonic tradition. In Freemasonry's Scottish Rite, the 33rd degree represents the highest honorary recognition a Mason can receive. It is not attained through standard progression alone, but it is conferred as a sign of distinguished service and deep commitment. This degree symbolizes mastery and culmination of the philosophical journey of the initiate. It is not merely a rank, but a symbolic number pointing to enlightenment, self-mastery, and alignment with universal truth. And the funny thing is that the ones that you see today, right, most of them are non-deserving of this honor in the modern lodge and grand lodge system. It's either people who are friends with the higher-ups, who are involved with the politics, or someone that's actually paid money to get the degree, right? So depending on if they donated enough money, if they got friends in the right places, or because most of these people, right, the ones that I've seen, I have seen some good 33s, but majority of them are just dickheads who have used their connections and politics to get where they are, and they're not good or enlightened people or people that are of a pure light or a pure heart. So from again, like I said in the disclaimer, that this is not to encourage you to join anything, but look at this teaching from a spiritual perspective and apply that to your life. And what this represents is you got to honor and clean your heart, make it pure, and make it one with the spirit of the divine. In Masonic symbolism, 33 signifies enlightenment, mastery, and spiritual perfection. The path through degrees represents gradual inner transformation, and the 33rd degree is seen as the completion of that path. It embodies the Mason who has achieved harmony of mind, heart, and spirit. Thus, 33 represents not only as a ceremonial degree, but a state of being. It is an emblem of inner illumination, balance, and connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the great architect of the universe. And stay tuned after this presentation is over here in the same video as I cover the true Knights Templars and the significance of the 33rd degree. The 33rd degree of the Scottish Rite traces its roots back to the early 19th century, when Masonic systems were being formalized in Europe. The use of the number 33 was not arbitrary, but chosen for its symbolic and spiritual resonance with themes of mastery and perfection. In adopting this degree, Freemasonry tied itself to a universal symbolic language of numbers, and it drew from the different traditions, including biblical, mystical, and esoteric traditions that associated 33 with maturity, enlightenment, and divine harmony, thus ensuring its enduring symbolic power. Masonic architecture often incorporates symbolic numbers, with 33 appearing in proportions, steps, or designs. Temples and symbolic buildings mirror universal order through geometry and number, and 33 often features as a hidden dimension of that sacred architecture. These incorporations remind initiates that numbers are not abstract, but embedded in the fabric of reality. They show that architecture itself can embody spiritual lessons, with 33 serving as a reminder of the journey toward unity. In Islamic teachings and the eschatology, it is said that the inhabitants of heaven, paradise, will all be in the prime of life at the fixed age of 33. This reflects perfection, eternal youth, and the wholeness in the hereafter. The age is not random, but carries the same symbolic meaning as the number itself: balance and eternal completion. As even I showed you earlier, right, reciting the names of God in the patterns of 33 after each prayer. This directly parallels the Masonic interpretation of 33 as the highest point of maturity and wisdom. In both traditions, 33 represents the ultimate state of being, one that transcends worldly imperfection and embodies eternal fulfillment. In Islam and Sufism, 33 appears as a symbol of remembrance, balance, and divine perfection. While mainstream Islam emphasizes its role in structured dhikr and afterlife beliefs, Sufism interprets it mystically as a marker of transformation and union with God. Now together, these views converge to show 33 as a sacred bridge between ritual and mysticism. It embodies the practical and esoteric dimensions of Islamic spirituality. And what is the motto of the 33rd degree? God is my right. Sufism and Freemasonry, though distinct traditions, both recognize 33 as a symbol of inner transformation. In Sufism, it points to a purification and divine love, while in Freemasonry, it marks the highest level of mastery. Both traditions stress that this number is not merely external, but reflects the journey of the inner being. It symbolizes transcendence of the ego and realization of higher wisdom. Although Islam and Freemasonry come from a very different framework, the number 33 emerges in both as symbol of moral and spiritual maturity. In Islam, it appears in prayer and paradise traditions, while in Freemasonry, it marks enlightenment. This shared symbolism suggests a universal archetype, that human beings across traditions recognize 33 as a marker of balance, justice, and a closeness to the divine. Islam, Sufism, and Freemasonry each interpret the number 33 as a symbolic of completion and enlightenment. Though their expressions differ, prayer cycles, mystical stages, or honorary degrees. The symbolic essence remains the same. This convergence highlights the universality of sacred numbers as a human language. The number 33 thus transcends individual traditions, pointing to a shared recognition of perfection and divine unity. The prominence of the number 33 has also led to conspiracy theories and misinterpretations. Some view it as evidence of secret societies or hidden control, but such views often distort its symbolic meaning. In reality, the number 33 reflects universal spiritual themes, not political agendas. Its misuse in conspiratorial narratives obscures its deeper value as a sacred archetype of human growth and enlightenment. But don't get me wrong here. There are those people that satanically invert this energy of 33 and use it for evil also. Just like how I pointed out that many of the 33rds that I've seen were undeserving of that honor. Beyond the frameworks of Islam, Sufism, or Freemasonry, the number 33 invites philosophical reflection. It symbolizes balance, harmony, and human potential across all traditions, and it points to the archetypal quest for transcendence. By reflecting on 33, one is reminded that sacred numbers are a universal language. They call us to see beyond differences and to seek the common truths that unite humanity in its spiritual journey. Many historians have noted the parallels between Islamic mystical orders, architecture, and the rituals of early European Freemasonry. During the medieval period, Moorish Spain and the Islamic East transmitted advanced knowledge of geometry, architecture, and esoteric wisdom. Sufi brotherhoods emphasized secrecy, initiation, and sacred geometry, concepts that later resonated in Masonic structures. The Fatimid and Moorish traditions in particular influenced the building of cathedrals, codes of brotherhood, and ritualized learning. While Freemasonry as an institution, right, what we know as the modern Grand Lodge system, formalized in Europe during the Enlightenment, many symbolic and structural roots can be traced back to Islamic sources. Now, this does not mean that Freemasonry is 100% Islamic, right, to be fair here, but it does suggest that its symbolic language and its teachings and many of the degree systems is indebted to the transmission of knowledge across cultures and religions, which the white Western European Masons or esoteric orders will never give credit to. Hence why you're seeing me on YouTube and other people like me who have popped up to basically give the East its due credit. And I encourage you to check out my Islam, Sufism, and Freemasonry playlist to see the work that I put out there. See, even the Kabbalah system, the Jewish mystical system, developed in medieval Spain and Provence at a time when Islamic Sufism flourished. Many scholars point to the cross-pollination of ideas. Sufi numerology, Neoplatonic Islamic philosophy, and esoteric cosmologies provided a fertile ground from which Jewish mystics drew inspiration. This includes concepts of divine emanations, sacred numbers, and meditative practices. Thus, the symbolic use of numbers like 33 in Kabbalah may have indirect resonance with Islamic teachings. Both traditions emphasize that numbers are not mere quantities but bridges to divine realities. Freemasonry, in turn, inherited elements of this shared mystical heritage, blending them into its symbolic framework. And I've done a video on the Kabbalah and Sufism on my channel. You can look that up. The roots of Greek philosophy are deeply connected to older civilizations. George G.M. James, who was also a Prince Hall Freemason, in his book Stolen Legacy, argued that what we call Greek philosophy was largely borrowed from Egyptian, Persian, and Indian sources. The Greeks studied in Egypt and absorbed spiritual and mathematical knowledge that had been cultivated for millennia, right? Such as the pyramids, which predated Pythagoras, a squared plus b squared plus c squared. This transmission was later reframed as a Greek invention, but its essence remains universal wisdom. This perspective highlights that sacred numbers, cosmology, and mystical teachings, such as the significance of 33, were already central in Egyptian mystery schools and Persian traditions. Thus, both Islamic mysticism and Freemasonry can be seen as inheritors of a much older global spiritual legacy, particularly giving credit to the East. Now, not all uses of the number 33 have been positive. Some secret societies and occult groups are said to invert sacred numbers, turning them toward darker rituals. In conspiracy culture, 33 is often portrayed as a code for hidden elites or sinister control. This perspective sees the number as deliberately used in political, financial, or ritualistic context to signal hidden power. It is important to note that much of this is speculative and symbolic rather than factually documented. While sacred traditions view 33 as perfection, love, and unity, darker interpretations invert it into domination and secrecy. This inversion itself testifies to the number's spiritual power. Its light can be honored or its shadow can be abused. Now, my personal story here is that there's a person, right, without mentioning her name, who claimed to be a MK Ultra sex slave. And in the 90s, she released a book, right, pertaining to this matter. And she does interviews on YouTube as well. So I had reached out to her a few years ago, like, hey, I want to interview you. I read your book, right? At that time, I was doing a lot of the YouTube interviews. And she gave me like a funny reply that, hey, you're doing good work and I'm busy for the rest of this month. Please reach out later. Now, this person, before she had a handler with her who was her CIA husband handler. And then after the husband died, now there's like a woman who accompanies her. So at that time, I was living in a neighborhood where there is no white people. I lived in a minority black and brown neighborhood. And right after that interaction, as I was walking down the street, right, an hour later to get something from the store, I see this weird white lady, right, with this like deer in the headlight, occult and evil look standing at the corner, looking at me, wearing a pink shirt with the number 33 on it. And that couldn't be a coincidence. As I was walking past her, I looked at her and I just kept walking. But it just goes to show you that even many in the truth and esoteric and spiritual communities, right, who claim to be people of expose or people that are showing you the truth or enlightenment, are in fact in reality not good people, but are the ones who are abusing the shadow of 33, right? Even that character from San Francisco I was dealing with, who I exposed as well. But yep, that's how it is sometimes. The journey through the symbolism of 33 in Islam, Sufism, and Freemasonry has revealed shared meanings of perfection, maturity, and enlightenment. It reminds us that sacred numbers speak across traditions, pointing to universal truths. Ultimately, the number 33 encourages us not only to honor ritual and history, but also to apply its wisdom in our lives, striving for balance, moral integrity, and deeper connection to the divine. Here are some academic resources that I recommend you all check out in your studies. And stay tuned because right after this I cover the true Knights Templars and the significance of the 33rd degree. Greetings and peace. I would like to start this with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace be with you and yours. And Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. This presentation I would like to do, who are the true Knights Templars and the Islamic origins of Freemasonry and Knights Templar. I represent myself only, and this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This lecture is inspired by my brother and friend, Brother Salim Hakim, from Prince Hall Lodge, number 57, in Philadelphia, USA, and it's about unmasking the real lineage within Freemasonry. Why this investigation matters? It's because modern Freemasonry is full of theater and regalia, but rarely substance. Amid the confusion lies the legacy of the Knights Templars, portrayed as Christian warriors, yet embedded in Masonic tradition. This presentation pulls back the curtain to expose the following. 1. That the real Templars were defenders of all faiths. Their roots and alliances reached into Islamic, Sufi, and Moorish mysticism. And the Scottish Rite, not the York Rite, carries their spiritual DNA. If we look at the York Rite illusion, right? The York Rite parades Templar knights in European pageantry, swords, white robes and crosses, and the costumes. Yet these same orders deny any meaningful connection to Jacques de Molay or his true purpose. They want the image, not the sacrifice, the symbol, not the soul, right? They love to say that, oh, modern Freemasonry has no connection to the Knights Templars. Then why are they portraying it within their initiatic systems and teachings if it has nothing to do with it? Now let's get to the bottom of this on what actually happened to the Templars. By 1307, the Templars were wealthy, powerful, and international, and that scared the papacy, of course. Pope Clement V and King Philip IV of France conspired with the Knights of Malta to betray them. Accusations of heresy, right, having brotherhood and having fraternity with Muslims, and protecting hidden doctrines led to Jacques de Molay's execution, but their legacy survived underground. Now we look at the historical lie of the Knights of Malta. The Pope gave all Templar assets to the Knights of Malta, their rivals. Today, the York Rite falsely claims both Templar and Maltese traditions. This is historically absurd. The Malta Knights were enforcers of church orthodoxy, not preservers of Templar wisdom. The true vessel of the Templars is the Scottish Rite. The ancient and accepted Scottish Rite, AASR, especially the 30th through 33rd degrees, upholds the true esoteric legacy. The Knights Kadosh are guardians of mystical knowledge, seekers of truth, not crusaders. And that's why if you look at, let's say, the Scandinavian countries, right, they are Christian exclusive, right? And of course, the Viking connection to the Crusades and the Crusaders. But besides all that, any, let's say, visiting Freemason from any other country that tries to sit in a meeting with them has to be 30th degree and above of the Scottish Rite, because they consider them the same aspect of being in the Templar tradition. So that's something to look at as well. If we look at the Knights of Kadosh and St. Andrew, we see the Knights Kadosh purify the soul. The Knights of St. Andrew serve as vigilant stewards of sacred principles. These degrees represent humility, wisdom, and service, and not theatrical swordplay. And for those that have seen the degrees of the Knights of St. Andrews, you see that fraternity between the Muslims and Christian brothers. We look at the Templars and Shriners, a secret alliance. In Jerusalem, Christian Templars and Muslim Shriners began mutual respect while guarding holy sites. They exchanged scriptures and prayers. This spiritual alliance birthed the earliest interfaith brotherhood in the mystic tradition, the mystic tie that binds us all. Richard de Lionheart and Saladin were brothers of the same esoteric orders. Many people did not know that any time Richard and Saladin met with each other, Richard would greet him with the lion's grip. I mean, Richard the Lionheart and the lion's grip, right? King Richard of England and Sultan Saladin were respected foes. When Richard was ill, Saladin sent his doctor. They honored each other with dignity, and the story shows Templars were not religious bigots but defenders of sacred honor across faith lines. And how even in the Masonic teachings you see that brother Masons from opposite sides, whether it's the Civil War or anything like that, when they recognized each other, they spared each other's lives. The true Templars are defenders of all faiths. True Templars protected pilgrims, not just Christians, but Jews and Muslims. And Saladin, as a brother of the same order, gave that same respect back to the Christians and their relics and churches in Jerusalem. They were spiritual warriors, not colonial crusaders. Their creed was divine service and not religious supremacy. So for the ignoramuses in the Masonic world and in those private Facebook groups, the Templar groups, and anywhere where they're using the Deuce Wolt memes against Muslims, go F yourself. And that includes Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, with that tattoo. So, and the Jerusalem cross and all that. You people are, you're not even on that level of what the true brothers of this order represented. We see the Hashemiyah, the black tents of Kedar. The Hashemiyah, descended from the Prophet Muhammad's uncle Hamza, guarded Mecca in black tents, known as the tribe of Kedar. They became the early mystic protectors, the original Shriners. The Moors taught the Crusaders, as I've covered in previous videos, where in Spain and North Africa, Moors taught European Templars geometry, astronomy, medicine, and the mystical arts, and brought Europe out of darkness into the Renaissance with a Moorish presence in Spain. The fez, now misunderstood, came from Moorish scholars, not carnival showmen. Shahada and spiritual initiation. Some Templars accepted Islam, right, including Robert of St. Albans, who actually married Saladin's niece too. They studied Arabic, read the Quran, and bore witness that there is no God but Allah. This spiritual initiation was a return to unity, not a betrayal of faith. And of course, the Sufi influence and Qadir. A mystic named Qadir had a warrior order. After his death, a ritual drama commemorated his life. Europeans witnessed it and brought the Rite to America, unknowingly birthing the ancient Arabic order of the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine. The birth of the shrine in the U.S., where we see European Masons misunderstood the depth of Sufi mysticism. They formed the shrine with rituals rooted in Moorish plays, but often stripped of substance and intention. And we see how watered down it all really is for those that have seen it. The hidden black shrine, where we see that before York Rite or American Shrinedom, there existed a black shrine. Deuce Muhammad Ali initiated Garvey, Noble Drew Ali, and Elijah Muhammad. This was the real mystical current. We also had Abul Hamid Soliman, right, from Sudan, his warning. He came to America to restore the authentic mystic shrine. But when he revealed they must embrace Islam, Masons rejected him. Of course, the truth was too uncomfortable, and even till this very day. The York Rite's great hypocrisy. The York Rite claims neutrality, yet excludes Islam and embraces colonial imagery. It denies its Eastern sources while dressing in Eastern symbols. This is spiritual imposture. Freemasonry's Moorish blueprint, the columns, the square, the ritual, all came from Africa and Arabia. The true builders were Sufis, Moors, and the Hermeticists. Freemasonry without the East is a hollow temple. And of course, you're told to travel to the East. Now, who are the true Knights Templar today? True Templars stand for divine justice, not dogma. They are mystics, defenders of truth, and friends to all Abrahamic faiths. They walk with light, not robes. Now we look at Frederick of Prussia, guardian of the Rite. Frederick II of Prussia, also known as Frederick the Great, played a foundational role in formalizing the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite in the 18th century. He was not just a monarch, but a philosopher king, deeply interested in mysticism and Masonic ideals. Under his influence, the Scottish Rite became a vessel for the esoteric teachings of the Knights Templar, and he is credited with safeguarding their deeper secrets within the structure of the 33rd degrees. Now, specifically that degree. Frederick's vision was not about ritual for ritual's sake, it was about preserving light through dark times. Now, why did I mention Frederick of Prussia? And of course, King of Prussia and the mall is named after him, for those in the Philly area. So if we look at the 33rd degree revelation, right, the true oath. So in the 33rd and final degree of the Scottish Rite, the one who goes through that, right, they call him the Sovereign Grand Inspector General, but their true title should be Knights Templar, because the initiate is given a shocking revelation that he is symbolically the spiritual descendant of the true Knights Templar. So in that 33rd degree, they're told that you're basically given that true identity of being that Knights Templar. And he is instructed to uphold the legacy of Jacques de Molay and to swear a spiritual vengeance against the historical enemies of the Templars, namely the Knights of Malta. This vengeance is not one of violence, but of remembrance and truth-telling. The candidate learns the truth that was buried by the church, that the Templars carried hidden knowledge from the East, safeguarded by mystics, Sufis, and Moors. Of course, if we look at the degree system of the Knights Templars and the Hashashin, we see quite the similarity. Where if we look at the Knights Templar, right, you have the Grand Master, the 3 Grand Priors, the Provincial Prior, the Chaplains, the Knights, the Esquires, the Serving Brethren, the Donato and Obligati, and the Affiliati. If we look at the Hashashin, we see the Grand Master, or the Prince of the Mountain, the Old Man of the Mountain, the Dais al-Kabir, or the 3 great viceroys under him, the Dais, or provincial masters, the Rafiq, or chaplains, the Lazik, or military body, the Ferayin, or death-devoted, and the Batini, or the secret brethren, affiliates. It's quite similar. And of course, the Knights Templars studied under the Hashashin and took that knowledge back to Europe. We see the Arabization of the Knights Templars, where the charges against them accuse them of being crypto-Muslim, with worshipping of Baphomet, right, which in the French spelling and pronunciation was a bastardization of Mahomet. And of course, they were accused of denial of Christ and persecuted on a Friday, which is a holy day for Islam. The Knights Templars made treaties in the Holy Land with Muslims contrary to French interest and betraying Frankish armies to Muslims during periods of conflicts. Robert of St. Albans, an English Knights Templar who converted to Islam and married Saladin's niece. In the 1270s, the Templar commander in Sidon, Matthew Savage, also spelled Sermaj, and the Mamluk ruler of Egypt, Sultan Baybars, were blood brothers. Hugues de Payens, right, the co-founder and the first Grand Master of the Knights Templars, was a descendant of Moorish Sufis. His grandfather was a Moorish Sufi who had instructed him in the sciences. And if you look at the Pagani family crest of Sicily, he comes from that family, right? And it has Moorish heads on there if you look at the family crest. So, yeah, that's what it is. People have to know the true history and who's who and what's what. If you want to honor Jacques de Molay, study Sufism, Moorish science, and the Quran. Seek the tents of Kedr and the spirit of Saladin. Forget the play and remember the purpose. Of course, the references and gratitude go to the research by Brother Salim Hakim, Prince Hall Lodge number 57, and sources include Imam Isa, Noble Drew Ali, Dus Muhammad Ali, and Islamic, Sufi, and Masonic traditions. Thank you for watching. If any questions or comments, please email me at salmansheikh911@gmail.com. And of course, all my work, including the information, criticisms, education, images, everything is under the copyright laws of fair use education purpose, and all my videos are for nonprofit and education purposes. Thank you. All rights reserved.